Welcome back to Titanium Hanger. This is Mike. I'm coming at you with another video. This time I'm talking to you about my scratch build Palitoy Death Star. Now, many viewers that are familiar with what's going on with this 9 Death Stars that I made and put them together in a circle to make it the ultimate Death Star set. A Palitoy Death Star would be the ultimate cherry on the top. Well, I didn't want to spend $400 on a Palitoy Death Star, and I agreed with them. I thought that was a great idea. So I said, hey, why not just try to make one myself? And I'm going to see who out there has done this, and of course I don't see anybody else that's done one. I have seen some that were looked pretty well remakes, that they did a pretty good job. They was pretty professional looking, but this is just what I did at the house with some printouts and stuff. But I did it for less than $100, which, by the way, $100 is still a lot of money for just some homemade stuff you did. But I want to set out to see if I could do it. I've never seen a Palitoy Death Star. I've never handled a Palitoy Death Star. And it's one of those things that was never in the U.S. and it's not very predominant. But after spending all the time with the U.S. version, I wanted to spend a little bit of time with the overseas version. And I have a lot of respect for the original now after building this thing. There is just so much to it. And I just thought, hey, the cardboard one was cheap and I've got the better one. Well, now I got the best of both worlds. So... but yeah, I do appreciate an original. An original is so much better than the thing that I made. Here are some of the materials I used. I used foam board right here. That's reflective tape right there. And of course you need some tools for cutting and drawing lines and double-sided tape. I double-sided taped it all together instead of gluing it because glue is so permanent, and I found that when I started doing some stuff, I really needed to pull it back off and readjust it, especially for where they fold. I wanted to go ahead and cut the big pieces in the sections that folded so that they wouldn't wrinkle up, and that turned out to be a pretty good thing. And then of course the printouts over there. Now those are extra printouts, and the reason is because this piece, actually this is all that really was extra, and because this is actually supposed to be one piece, and I guess in the scans, I'll link the scans below, but this is all supposed to be one piece. And then they gave you extra scans of those, so you don't need those single pieces. So, but I'll link the scans in case you want to do this yourself, or if you want to see where it's at. But let's get on to this. By the way, that black shiny reflective cardboard was like $2 after the $40% off coupon at Hobby Lobby, and that's what I used to fabricate all the plastic pieces that were in here out of a shiny cardboard to look more plasticky. So here it is in all of its greatness, and it doesn't look perfect, and as a person who feels like a perfectionist all the time, I spent a week on it just fiddling with it, and I think I got it to a certain point, and the more fiddling I did, I think I made it worse with all the fiddling. But I'm going to go through a quick rundown with it, and then I'm going to show you the step-by-step, well, not really step-by-step, but kind of different phases of construction, and then at the end I'll show you what it looks like with some figures on it. But I'm also going to show you where I messed up and things I would have done different. But this is like the main, this whole section here, this piece folds in half and makes the walkway, the catwalk. One of the things I don't like about my printout is the original, this is pretty close to black, and that's green, but it's showing up here as tan and like a dark gray. So I don't like that very much. Here's a hallway. I did put the reflective tape. And that reflective tape is called, what's the name of that? That's a duct tape, and it's called mirror duck, which is weird. I didn't even know they made that until I set out looking for that. I went ahead and made to where this flap here would open. And then there's the chute, where a figure could go down the chute, the garbage chute. Now I wanted to make every function of this available. I did watch a video, I think it's Action Jackman or something like that, and I watched his Palitoy video to see what a Palitoy Death Star was all about, and I went ahead and made sure I had all of the functions that this had. So you can see that opening there. Then moving this thing over here, this is the trash compactor. And it works. So I got the working trash compactor. I got the working trash chute going. I have an actual walkway. This here I didn't reinforce with foam board. It's the only thing I didn't reinforce with foam board because all the intricate cutting and all of that. And then the fact that I just didn't feel like it would fit right once I put the foam board in. And I think the foam board is thicker than the original cardboard that was used on this thing. But this is actually a nice little scene here. When it's closed, you have a big space to display. I did cut this out. Some of my hardware is exposed, so I do want to cover that up eventually. But I got to a point I just said, I'm done. I'm done messing with it, because the more I do, I start going backwards on some things. So looking at this, here we are with the main area, which you can kind of see way down. There's the catwalk, which I do have tape. I taped in some foam at the end because it wasn't holding in place, so I did put a small strip of foam board up top. I eventually need to come back and clean that up. But you can also see this piece here is part of that closing door, so I didn't clean that up once you shove it through there. But I mean, all of it goes together exactly the same as the original. And I was questioning the size of the printouts because I just randomly took them off the internet, and there they were. So they worked, except for this piece here. This I had to get resized down to 6 inches to make it fit right. So the gunner station piece, that little circle, had to get that done. And then moving over here, we have the other side of the catwalk, which it's all flimsy looking because I didn't put foam board in all of it, and I may pull that out and redo it eventually. One of the problems I ran into was when I was cutting this foam board to make it match and both sides match, and then of course I got double-sided tape instead of glue, so I may go back and glue these in place so they just stay forever. But I do have made a lot of adjustments to it as I went. Some more exposed hardware without having the clips. Fabricating the clips, that was a challenge too. So here's a little area here, and I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but there's the pictures look great, and the size is right. I must be off on my cuts for my holes just a little bit because the feet aren't exposed, meaning that he's shifted slower and he's a little shorter. This Stormtrooper is shorter than an action figure. This Stormtrooper, that Stormtrooper should be about the exact same size as a vintage Stormtrooper action figure. So coming around here, I'm going to expose my biggest issue with this. The fold should have been right here on that main piece, and I made the fold here, meaning that this stuff here didn't line up just right, and so it caused for a little bit of a junky look to it. I couldn't get it all to seat in exactly right. This is supposed to be open for the ladder, and then this is supposed to be butted up right against that piece. And I didn't want to take the whole thing completely apart and do another fold, and it would have still had this fold still wouldn't have gone away completely. So that's a challenge, and that was just a mistake. I mean, I could have folded it on this pretty easily. I just didn't know. But now that I know, and if you go to do it, make sure your fold's right on that line. So, but anyway, $400 Palitoy with Death Star for less than 100 and extra parts. I'm going to show you what I did with this really crude gunner station. And here's my canopy. I basically bought a nightlight for $1 at the Dollar Tree, cut the packaging off of it, and there's my cover. And then I just messing around with that foam board, or not the foam board, that shiny glossy construction paper. But anyway, let's there it is in all of its greatness. Let's go ahead and get into the build, and then we'll come back and see what it looks like with some figures on it. So first off, I found some scans that were free. The scans were free on the internet. I took it to a print shop and said, hey, I want to print this thing. It's kind of like a 3D puzzle. And I'll assemble it like a 3D puzzle and treat it as such. And just so you can see the size, there's the Death Star, there's the base. The base is 2 foot by, 2 foot diameter, and pretty easy, pretty basic. Here's some more pieces, and when you see this stuff like on eBay or anyone's talking about it, you don't realize how big they are, but that's big. Like, here's my hand, and there's the bridge. So my next step is going to be cutting all these pictures out. It cost me 78 bucks to print 5 sheets of pictures, and I'm going to also use a little bit of foam board to give it some strength. I've got an extra piece of foam board here, and it's about 18 inch by 4 foot, but I'm going to have to get another big sheet of foam board simply so I can have enough, and I want to make this structure pretty strong. And so my plan is to cut each piece out and then cut foam board out. So that's going to be kind of time consuming. I'm going to show you a couple more pieces that need to get cut out and put in there. And then I've got ideas what I'm gonna do for the gun and all that stuff. But my goal is to keep this project around $100. I'm gonna spend like $10 on foam board, 10 more bucks on some support pieces because I don't have those because I don't even have reproduction ones. I'm just gonna use L brackets, and we'll see how it all works out. Standard scissors and cutting. This is the part you get the whole family involved in. You have the kids cut some out. Maybe ask the wife to help. Well, that didn't work for me. But anyway, you end up with a lot of pieces that you're going to end up having to make double-sided. So right now, basically what I'm doing is getting in here and doing the double-sided part where you make sure that they will line up just right. Well, those aren't the right piece. Here are two pieces. Oh, these are big pieces too. And then they kind of line up to make it double-sided. And then I'm going to make sure each one, so there's like 10 pieces like this. Make sure they're all set up, double-sided, then we're going to move to the foam board. There are some pieces in here that need, like lots of windows that need to get cut out. And the best way I'm doing it, you can use an X-Acto knife or something, but I'm just using a box cutter and just cutting the windows out. This is the hardest, in my opinion, the hardest, most tedious part of this entire project. And I just don't think, I gotta find a better way to do this. I probably should use a sharper X-Acto knife. These things are kind of dulled a bit, but sort of gets the job done, but I'm going to have to clean that up. Definitely. The next step is going to be doing the foam board, but there's a bit of a challenge to that. So what I'm doing is I'm double-side taping this to the foam board, and then I'm just going to cut around it. And so what I did is I'm going to put everything down with double-sided tape. I may eventually have to glue it because the double-sided tape may come up. It may not hold it well enough. But for now, it looks like it's doing pretty good. The other thing I'm going to have to do is double-side tape the pieces together. Now, as you can see, I've double-side taped these pieces together. And on both sides, they don't have a perfect match. So since I'm actually technically making my own parts and pieces here, I'm going to need to make them match perfect so that the foam board underneath is perfect, so it is a better look in the end. The other problem that I'm coming across here is that these two pieces are supposed to be the same size. Basically, this is supposed to be the bottom of where the gunner station, and that's supposed to be the top, and I don't think either one of them are the right size. So I'm going to have to figure something else out about that, but that's probably the very last piece I need to make, and so I'm not too worried about it. So once, I think you got to start with the base, obviously. So what I did is I went ahead and cut the base, taped it, double-sided taped it down to foam board. And then I cut out the base. Now, this is where the supports are going to go. And I'm not really 100% sure on the build, but right now I'm just kind of putting the pieces, building the pieces. When I go to build it, I may have to cut this out or something, but I'll find out then. And if that happens, you know, I'll just cut it out then. But I think this base was a pretty good start. And now we're going to get into the two big pieces. And these two big pieces, again, we're going to have more issues with this. So these pieces here have to line up exactly. And then you cut the foam board out. So I'm going to double side tape these, just a few pieces of tape so I can get them to trim out exactly. Then I got to cut out each of these openings. I don't know if that opening needs to get cut out. I'm going to find out. But 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 pieces that need to get cut out. And what happens is these pieces are going to end up just as openings to the other side. And I think this piece here actually cuts out too, and it's a flap. It's a door. So this piece is going to be a door. So I'm going to have to cut that flap out too. But anyway, this stays intact, and it's an actual piece of it that stays attached to it. So some more work, a lot of work. Actually, a lot more than I thought it would be, but it's going to be kind of fun. The other thing I want to show you on these big pieces, and I never had one of these. I've never handled a Palitoy Death Star in real life, but if you look right here, this section here has is I guess I'm gonna have to cut this an opening here, and then I guess if you look on this one, it's on the top, and on this section, it's on the bottom. And I guess when you assemble it, you're going to slide this piece over there to hold it in place. So that's basically, these are going to hold itself in place, and then I'm going to bolt it down with some brackets. So I'll show you all that when we get there, but right now we're still cutting out insert holes and lining it all up and doing some foam board. Okay, so I'm using the foam board to give it some strength and support, and I think what they used was more like a pegboard kind of wood. But I've never actually handled one of these, so I don't know. But the foam board is a little bit more challenging to work with than I initially realized, and all my foam board before was just cutting out one giant section. But here we are so far getting this panel, and with this, the back looks real ugly, so I'm softening up kind of the pieces here with a Dremel before I put the other side on. And one thing that I did learn and realize is that you definitely want to cut these pieces out first, and then you want to cut your foam board, because I've taken off a couple sections of this sheet, but I'm learning as I go, and just didn't know if I was just going to save time by cutting through this and the foam board at the same time, and so we'll know for the next piece that I do. But moving on to the next section, I actually am using a book to get the fold. And you want to do it on a hard tile like I did, but I'm going to kind of show you, this is a carpeted area. And this foam gets everywhere. I'm going to have to vacuum really well when I'm done. But basically what you do to get a nice fold on your foam board is on a tiled surface, lay your book down. I laid a hard book down and then just folded it like this. And get a good fold. And it's a little trickier, but that's what I use. Also, I got the foam board at Hobby Lobby, and right now it's 40% off, but you can always get the 40% off one item coupon. It would have been better to get like a big sheet. It would have been cheaper, but still, I mean, I think I got $7 a foam board here. Okay, so I'm going to start building this, even though I don't have all the parts affixed to the foam board. But a couple things. First, I'm using this reflective tape, and it's duct tape. It's called Mirror Duck. And that was like $5, but it only took a little bit, and it was kind of hard to cut. But anyway, also the brackets. So I don't have clips, so I'm going to use these brackets, and this is the they were like $3 for each pack, and technically you need 3 packs. I'm just using like 2.5 packs. So, but what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna bolt them to the board and bolt the entire structure to it. So there we go. Here it is with some figures on it. I think this would be a great way to display my Darth Vader talking to the bounty hunters. We've got Tarkin overlooking the whole situation. Just kind of, I would think he'd be higher up in there, and I kind of thought about throwing them up on the top rail, but lots of options, so I'm going to have to break out a whole lot more Star Wars figures, vintage ones, to fill all this stuff up. But you can see Luke and Leia and Han and Chewie in the trash compactor. They were actually in the weren't they in the Stormtrooper costume? So I threw them in the Stormtroopers. Maybe I got to recheck that. But if I were to do this again, if I were to do this project again, which I probably won't, but I figured it out. I would probably go to garage sales and buy up a bunch of board games, and you obviously need one big one for the bottom, or actually several big ones. But the material in board games would make it a little more stable and more precise. I think the actual pictures, once they're printed, are pretty precise size-wise, aside from the very top round piece, and you don't need those extra ones. So this main piece here that folds got double printed, but yeah, the board game material is what would make it hold up, and it does look like, when you look at buying a Palitoy Death Star, it looks like you're buying a board game. I got sick of looking at that Palitoy Death Star Escape board game every time I was trying to see if there was one popping up on eBay. But these things always go for $400. Even the cheapest I think is $300 if it's missing a bunch of stuff. But let me know what you think about this build, this project. I might have a couple more projects coming up. Definitely have some more dioramas I'm going to be working on, and when the barge comes, I'm going to be reworking that whole scenario. So, like, subscribe, leave some comments down there, let me know what you think. Titanium Hanger, out.